Is the Great Reset failing? Are we actually falling for a psyop? In fact, do we think that they've got more power than they actually have? It's a great question. Joaquin Flores did an interview. Let's take a look. This is Joaquin Flores. We give Davos more credit than it deserves. Great Reset is failing. This is from a podcast called Geopolitics and Empire. You should check it out. Pretty cool, pretty interesting stuff.
One of the successes in information war, one of the great successes in information war of the elites is what I call the Gargoyle Effect, which is that they have gotten conspiracy theorists to help them promote their power far beyond and above what it really is. So they've created a virtual reality, a holographic reality where they, everything that happens is within their plan.
That's a great point. Okay, Sun Tzu, what did he say? When strong appear weak, when weak appear strong. We have penetrated all the cabinets. We have the young global leaders in the cabinets. We have just penetrated. Well, have we? Have they really penetrated? You tell me. I don't know. Let's hear some more from Joaquin.
The relative power that let's say the Western globalist elites have is necessarily less than what you perceive it as, because their number one objective is to project more power than they have.
Wow. Their number one objective is to project more power than what they have. Well, I'll tell you one thing, just from training dogs, and I'm just an amateur, I really am, but it's the same thing when you're asserting your dominance. I've been teaching my daughter recently how to project that authority, that dominance over our very dominant dog. He's a German Shepherd. He's beautiful, but he needs to understand who's boss. And a lot of it is done with power projection. And I think that's how these people at the top, they view us. They're trying to project their dominance and create this idea in our heads that they really do. They have penetrated all the cabinets and everybody is under the control.
So the power that you perceive them to have is always more power than they really have. So I'm not an optimist or a pessimist, but that's in fact how it works. And I think that means that there are opportunities to push against this.
I agree 100%. It is the greatest failure, in my opinion, as soon as you give up that the will to fight. Right? As soon as you do that and you become submissive and you lie there and you just take it, you take that hump, that is actually when you lose. As soon as you decide to give in and give up is when you're finished. And that I completely agree. I think there's opportunity. I think it truly is. I really like this, and it makes sense to me just from my own personal experience of life about how people operate. A lot of it is just projection, and it's about getting you to believe that they have the power, so you now lose the power to act. We've seen it right here with the Freedom Convoy. We see the same thing happening with the U.S. Freedom Convoy. They're in D.C. today. Today is March, it's the Saturday, March 18th or 19th today. And you know what? They're already there. They're there right now. We saw that happen here in Canada. You felt hopeless. I felt hopeless. And then all of a sudden, hope is fulfilled. And not just hope. I know now that I'm not alone. So the power they're projecting, right? The media projecting all this to me, that they're under control, that everyone agrees with them, with their point of view, that you really are a fringe minority. Well, it turns out you're not.
Just because you can probably establish that they are a member of this maybe secret society or sit on this panel that's extra supra-governmental or supranational, whether Davos, okay. Just because that is the case, and just because some of these organizations are spun off of or inherited from organizations that you can track back, say, to the early 19th century or something like this. That's about when a lot of these things seem to go back to. Doesn't mean that those people in the 19th century came up with a vision and that everyone is following it lockstep.
Lockstep, right. Planning. You hear all this stuff, right? That these plans have been in motion for 200 years, for 500, for 2,000 years, and the rest. I think that's a little bit of a psyop itself, is to make you think that, of course, maybe generally there's people and groups who've wanted certain things, but to tell me that everything is planned, even my reaction is planned, right? Even my own reaction is planned. That means to me that you're assigning them the value of omnipotence. Okay, you're giving them omniscience, omnipotence, ultimate power over your own mentality.
Okay, the word lockstep and the concept of lockstep is part of power projection. That's the gargoyle effect. That's why Biden and people like this are now saying lockstep. Okay, they're not saying the quiet part out loud. Okay, they're saying the lie. They're saying the nonsense out loud. There's been no real lockstep in the development of the elites over 2 centuries. Of course, it's make money over lose money, build power over lose power. Like those are the basics. But on the individual level, these are highly ego-driven people.
100%. I love what he's just saying right here, and I think this really it aligns exactly with my thinking. These people are highly egotistical. They're maniacs. Okay, they have these delusions that they're of godhood. We've seen that already in the way. If you look at these books put out by Klaus Schwab and you go through them, you can see that he's outlining pros and cons, and he's giving these huge pronouncements over the world. If you're in the technical sphere, you remember Ray Kurzweil, this kind of thing. Everyone believes AI is here and it's going to control everything and everyone, and nobody's going to have a job, and we're going to be, remoted out of existence. There's going to be robots that do everything for us. And it's a technological dream. It's a sick, twisted view of reality that has no bearing in humanity and no bearing in actual fact of how people operate. But they're technocrats. This is the only way. They're sort of semi-autistic spurgs who've gained this power, this clout, and now deem to tell us how it's going to be, and that they truly are guardians of the galaxy and supreme leaders of the world, and they've already plotted and planned out every step of the way, and they even know that I'm going to say this right now. They even know that I'm going to make this video.
Okay, which means that they're, first of all, always looking for the knife in their back from one of their colleagues of the same class and same stature. They're not like, it's a very lonely thing to have $50 billion. In fact, you may hate each other more than anyone else, because it's like that movie Highlander. There can be only one.
There can be only one, McLeod.
And they're constantly looking for that knife in their back. And now, of course, you keep your friends close, but you keep your enemies closer. And so, of course, you always see them together. They're sitting on the same committees and the same councils in the same way that you see the Russia-Ukraine negotiating team sitting in the same room together. That doesn't mean that there's a frickin' conspiracy between Russia and Ukraine because they're having deconfliction talks in the same room and they all take a photo together.
Very interesting point. Very interesting point. This fellow actually, he's living over there in Eastern Europe, and he's got some great opinions. He's got a really in-depth study of all this stuff. Well, there it is. Be sure you're subscribed right over here to WCFreedom.com. And if you'd like to support us here at the War Campaign, the best way to do that is to check these out right over here. BULLETMAKER and Vestige. Before getting involved in politics and the rest, we were involved in the culture war, and we wanted to bring back heroism in an age of decadence and, depravity. We wanted real heroism. I wanted something that I could give to my children to read that would inspire them and inform them of righteous action, righteous behavior, and still be, gripping and righteous good time. And that's what we put together with Vestige, BULLETMAKER. Check out BULLETMAKER. Link is in the description. Be sure you're subscribed to WCFreedom.com. And I'll be back again from my mother's basement. Hail the chat. Hail, brethren. Stay free. Hail freedom.